Before going into the topic details, I want to bring your attention to the UPSC coaching programs offered by ClearIAS. ClearIAS offers online and offline courses to help candidates get selected for prestigious government services like IAS, IPS, or IFS. ClearIAS Prelims Cum Mains (PCM) course provides a highly effective study plan, well-organized subject-wise videos, study materials, mock exams, and guidance to cover the entire GS syllabus of UPSC CSE prelims, mains, and interview systematically. As a limited-period offer, there is a 40% discount on our online courses. Enroll now.
Bangladesh issue, Bangladesh crisis we can say. So it is continuously in the news, and this was a screenshot taken last week actually, and it says that the Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister, will definitely return to Bangladesh. That is her son is actually saying. So that is a recent current affair, and what is actually happening in Bangladesh, that is what we are going to look right now. So, the PM Sheikh Hasina, the former PM Sheikh Hasina is actually the daughter of, who's the guy?
Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
Exactly, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So he is actually called the founding father of Bangladesh, etc. After the 1971 war, the war of liberation for Bangladesh, the Indian army definitely helped them. And we were actually fighting with Pakistan. That was East Pakistan at that time. And we helped them win the war actually. And we actually, in fact, India actually helped them create the country, a new country that is called Bangladesh. There are different countries which are actually creating a lot of different things. But we created a country. So that is actually happened with Bangladesh. So Sheikh Hasina is actually this daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is actually the founding father of Bangladesh. So we have to understand why this particular thing actually happened. So what was the issue? Why did the Sheikh Hasina actually fell? She resigned from the prime ministership and she fled to India. That is actually what happened. She reached the northeast India. From there onwards, she was escorted to Delhi. So that was what happened. So what was the main issue, and that actually happened is that she has a party that is called the Bangladesh Awami League. Awami League party is there. So that is one party. So let me remind you one thing, that this particular slide will be of less significance in the UPSC perspective. Right. So what is happening in their internal politics is their matter. It may ask in their UPSC, but not us. So but we still have to have a very foundation concept of what is happening, so that we can write in our significance and impact for India, etc. So we have to understand who are the players there, what is the party, what is the major thing happening. That is actually required for us. So she has an Awami League party, and the opposition party is actually Bangladesh Nationalist Party, whose chair is actually Khalida Zia. She was also the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and they were actually, they were actually in the Prime Minister chair. And Sheikh Hasina was the last continuously 15 years, she was in the Prime Ministership. That is the recent past. So what happened recently was that there was a quota system, there was a reservation system, and what happened was all those freedom fighters, that is the 1971 war, that time. So all those people who held Bangladesh warm, they actually they have the reservation system for them. So they now extended it actually for their children, for their descendants, etc. So the current people, they're actually kindly pro-Pakistan, pro-China, etc. And they're actually not that much supportive of India. And the people of Bangladesh actually, they're very much suspicious about how the Sheikh Hasina's actually links with India. They say that, okay, Bangladesh is actually bending down to India. She's not powerful. And along with that, it started as a student protest also against this particular quota system, which is actually for the descendants of that freedom fighters, etc. They're descendants of the freedom fighters, not the freedom fighters, the descendants. So that is why the students actually started protesting against it. And slowly it actually spread wide, spiraled out of control. And even the army chief actually told Sheikh Hasina that, okay, we will never, fight against, or we'll never shoot against our citizens. And already more than 400 people were actually killed in the riots and the student protest and all. So it was started as a student protest, but slowly it even spiraled out of control and became a mass movement. So that was actually what happened. And because of this anti-quota struggle, eventually led to her fall actually. And because of the army chief, this final ultimatum, she had to flee to India. And it is said that even 45 minutes before she coming to India, she was still in that field that, okay, you go to and control the crowd. But that did not happen. And after 45 minutes, she had to flee to India. So that is actually what happened in Bangladesh. And just like I said, this particular thing is actually less significant to us in the UPSC perspective only. So we can actually read about it. If you have lesser time, if you like reading, if you like to listen to the particular news, etc., that is actually okay. You can spend more time on it if it is your hobby. But on the exam perspective, be very concise, be very limited to that very particular point so that we can focus on our revision purposes. The less notes, the less data we get, the better our note making will be. So this ultimately, the resignation of Sheikh Hasina ultimately created a political vacuum. So behind me, you can see the screen. It is actually the Parliament of Bangladesh. And you can see the entire people, the students, the rioters, the protesters, everyone was actually looting the particular, Bangla, the parliament building, etc. So just imagine if it is happening in India. We cannot imagine that. So that was the level of things happen. The place which is supposed to have the maximum security, what are the highest security in one country, it is actually fled by the mob. So this would definitely happen in a country if only the army, the security people and the army supports them only. Then only the protesters can enter. So it was very clear for Sheikh Hasina that she did not have the support of the army. So that was actually what happened. The political vacuum, the uncertainty was very much evident, and definitely she had to play. And with her sister, of course, and her daughter, Sheikh Hasina's daughter, is actually the regional head of WHO, and that her office is in Delhi only. So Sheikh Hasina came to Delhi to meet her, to be with her daughter along with her sister, and her son is actually recently, yesterday only, he was saying that once the democracy is actually restored in Bangladesh, she will come back. But you know that it will be very difficult for a person like that, ruling for around 15 years, that will be very difficult. There will be anti-incumbency factor also. And who is actually heading the Bangladesh right now? The interim government, the interim government is actually Muhammad Yunus. So it is actually Muhammad Yunus who will be heading the interim government. And he is actually Nobel laureate. He actually won Nobel Prize around 2006, I guess. And he is actually 84 years old. And he won the Peace Prize actually. So he won the Peace Prize, and he is an entrepreneur. He is a businessman. He is a banker. He is a philosopher. So he has a lot of designations according to. But the point is, he actually was actually very close to the military, very close to the people of Bangladesh, and very definitely has ties with the army. And of course, so that is why he was chosen as the interim head. Why? Because the army definitely need a popular face, a fresh face that has no that much, against things. So they actually chose him to be the interim head. And we cannot actually easily say that whether he is pro-India or anti-India against all. So it will take time to exactly make it clear what his intentions are, what the new government intentions will be. Because it is widely said that the current feeling of Bangladesh with the people of Bangladesh, it is actually kind of anti-India, and they are actually pro-Pakistan or pro-China. So that is a very huge concern for us. That is one of the impact or significance for India, this entire crisis. So what are we going to understand about the impact of India? The first thing is actually about, there are a lot of different impacts for India. And one of the important things we can tell is about the connectivities. So there is actually regional connectivity issues. So one example is actually Agartala rail link. Agartala rail link. So this Akhora is actually in Bangladesh, and Agartala, we know that it is capital of Tripura. So it is actually rail link connecting the Indian region, the Indian territories, that is from Tripura, Agartala. So from that Agartala, it is actually getting connected to Akhora, that is in Bangladesh. Why we are actually giving that much emphasis to this particular thing is that with this particular connectivity, we can actually reduce the travel time from the Northeast India to actually Kolkata. So just imagine traveling all the way through the Northeast India to reach West Bengal, to reach Kolkata. We can actually bypass this thing by actually having a rail connectivity through Bangladesh. It is not a very small issue. It is it's not a very simple thing to do. It is a very heavy thing. It is a very positive, with having larger impact on the entire region of Northeast India. So you also will be having different people, different friends in Northeast India. So I remember talking to one of my friends, like somewhere around 5-6 years back, and one of the terms he just mentioned was, you Indians are actually very much, living in happy life. So I said, you Indians, so you're also Indian, right? So why are you feeling, like, how can you say you Indian? It is actually we Indians. You're also actually from the particular state in Manipur. He was actually from Manipur. So I was actually asking him, why do you guys feel that? You don't feel like Indians. So he actually replied that, no, there is actually very lack of development, there is lack of focus is there. So a lot of issues they actually mentioned. So there are a lot of people who actually feel that the entire mainland India is different, Northeast India is different. There is a feeling, at least in some people. So we have to overcome all those mindsets, all those philosophies, all those concepts. We have to make the Northeast India develop just like the mainland India, just like the other part of India also. So that is why this kind of projects are actually of extreme importance. And that is integration of India. That is the larger topic. And to add to the subtopics, we can also mention about the trade links, the economic boost in the region, the comfort of the passengers, the comfort of the goods travel, etc. So that is actually all important. Plus, if you have something like this, definitely Bangladesh will also be getting some money, because we are actually going through Bangladesh. We are actually giving we will be giving some money, some tax money to Bangladesh. So they'll also be happy. So which means that the bilateral relations will be definitely good. So there are a lot of implications for such projects. And ultimately, because of this particular event, the crisis which is happening in Bangladesh, there can be repercussions in such projects. That is very important thing. So Akhavira Agartala is actually a very important concept which you have to keep in your mind. There are other things, of course. For example, we are actually definitely suspecting the role of CIA. That is actually, CIA is actually from which country?
USA.
USA, right? So there is actually a link of CIA, and then ISI is definitely from Pakistan. So and definitely the China link also. So we are actually suspecting that definitely the other countries are also having a play in the particular region. So we are actually seeing a situation in which the influence of China, Pakistan, and to an extent US is actually increasing. So there is a chance. So we are only suspecting, there is only a suspicion in that particular thing. And we already spoke about the connectivity issue, and we gave the example of Akhavira Agartala. So the larger concept is the economic impact of the region. How will Bangladesh behave when this particular government changes actually happen? Will they continue that kind of economic coordinates with India, or will they actually go for China actually? Will they shed India and will they go for more economic activity with China? Those are the major large issues. To give an idea that this particular region is actually very much rich in jute cultivation. So Bangladesh and India are the top two producers of jute. So there is actually, and Bangladesh was actually under Sheikh Hasina, there was actually a lot of development also. Unlike the protesters are actually saying, their economic development was huge, at least in the last 20 years. And one of the biggest reasons is actually jute and the textile industry mainly. And she was giving so much focus on the textile industry also. So definitely is actually Bangladesh is giving a tight competition to India also in this textile export, textile production, etc. So what if China is actually coming there and China is actually helping them, with the investments, with productivity, other things, with exports, etc. So that means actually the region, everyone will be focusing on the cheaper imports, cheaper exports of the Bangladesh, so that our exports will be hit. So there are a lot of other such economic issues also along with this particular thing. So let's move ahead. Some of the other impacts also. So we can also mention about, we already mentioned about the Akhavira Agartala and FTA. What is FTA? Free trade agreement. So we were actually continuously in the talks of FTA, and it was not definitely conclusive. It had did not started actually. So we were actually in the final stages of the talks with Bangladesh for a free trade agreement, which is actually not happened till now. So when this particular thing is actually, crisis is happening, there is a chance that definitely they will go for China for further trade. So this thing is actually uncertain right now. And to add to the point, what about the regional security issues? Regional security will definitely have a large impact. Why? Because all the agencies, all the organizations which we have, SAARC, BEAT, SAARC, we already mentioned about BIMSTEC. We had a class on BIMSTEC, and then BBIN, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal. BBIN is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal. So all these different kinds of groupings have India and have Bangladesh also. So which means that it is a geographical reality. That particular term is actually always used in terms of international relations. Geographical reality. So we cannot avoid the nation that is actually Bangladesh. It is there. It is the reality. It is the elephant in the room, we can say. So we cannot actually avoid this particular nation that is Bangladesh. So we definitely will have to cooperate with them. Bangladesh also will have to cooperate with us also. That is the reality for both the countries. We cannot avoid such a crisis in a very silly manner. Everything which is happening there will be having an impact on us. And we have to also mention about the other different things. For example, we already mentioned about the economic aspect. It is actually around $15 billion of trade is actually happening with Bangladesh and India. And India is definitely one of the largest economic partner of Bangladesh in South Asia also. In South Asia, which means that it is actually having how India is actually thinking about this particular issue. It is actually a concern for Bangladesh also. So that is actually we have to keep in mind. And along with that, what are the other problems which India is actually facing? If we talk about regional security, we have to also mention about border management. Right. So just imagine what happened in 1971, the war of the liberation of Bangladesh, and just penultimate to that particular war. And during the war also, lot of people actually migrated or just they came seeking refuge from Bangladesh to the northeast India and to the West Bengal region also. Why? Because actually they were actually suppressed in that particular state of East Pakistan. So just like that, there was actually exodus of people from that particular region. Just like that, we are actually expecting a situation if the military is actually taking over, if there is suppressions in the country, there may be an exodus of people. There may be a lot of migrants coming to different parts of India, be it in northeast or the other parts of West Bengal region also. So that is a very big concern. So border management is an important concept which we have to keep in mind. And along with that, the terrorism aspect, the cross-border terrorism aspects. There are a lot of terrorist groups in the northeast India. There are a lot of terrorist groups in the Myanmar region also. So there was one time we had a hot pursuit. This is not a surgical strike. This was a hot pursuit. So hot pursuit was actually when that particular group from Myanmar region, from the border with Myanmar, they came to India. They hit the Indian army convoy. There are a lot of Jawans were actually killed in Matriot at that particular time. So we went behind them with the cooperation of the Myanmar army and all. We actually eliminated most of them. So that is actually called hot pursuit. And and it is different from surgical strike. So surgical strike was something like preemptive. So that is actually another term. Surgical strike was preemptive. That is before the actual action of that terrorist happened, before the terrorists come, we actually go there and we eliminate them. So before something happened, we just did the what we did. That is actually called surgical strike. So this was actually a hot pursuit thing happened in the northeast region. So there are a lot of different terrorist organizations and groups in the northeast that are really active. And this will be a concern when Bangladesh is actually changing its character. So what if they are actually giving funding, or what if they start, helping these organizations? What if they help in the cross-border terrorism activities that are actually very much important for us actually? And larger perspective is that the most important thing is the neighborhood. So we have a neighborhood first policy. But now just look at India. This is actually very much expected question in this year's prelims and this year's mains and next year's prelims or mains also. Why? Because we have a neighborhood first policy. What are our neighbors? What are our neighbors in India? Just tell me one country one by one. Which is one? Just take one country. Sorry? Okay, Nepal is one thing. Then Bhutan is one thing. Which are the major ones? Bangladesh one. Myanmar is one. Sri Lanka is one. Pakistan is definitely one. And Afghan is one. So and then definitely China is also there. We have a neighborhood first policy. Just look at the different names of the neighbors and see how many of them are actually having a friendly relation with us. Look at us. I mean, it is not a very cordial.
Maldives too.
Maldives too. Maldives, yes. Maldives too. Exactly. Thanks for pointing it out. So there are different neighbors for us. Just look at each of them, and we can say that most of these major countries are actually not having that much good relation with us right now. So the neighborhood first policy is actually having a hit right now. That is an important thing. That is an important perspective in the exam perspective. Also, it is an important question. How we can actually improve on this thing? What are the impacts of different countries on India? So that is, for example, taking Maldives, they actually had a recent regime change and they are now pro-China. That is the fact they are happening. And they even had the audacity to ask the Indian soldiers to get out of their soil, because we were actually there for their own security also. We actually helped them whenever they had any kind of crisis, be it a water crisis, be it a coup also when that happened, we helped them. And now when the regime is actually changing, they even ask the Indian soldiers to get out of that soil. So just imagine the level of audacity they are actually having with the support of China. And then China is definitely there. We don't have to talk about China. We don't have to talk about Pakistan also.
So
So these are,
Nepal had communist government this time. KP Sharma Oli.
sorry, where?
Sir, even Nepal had communist government this time. KP Sharma Oli.
Exactly. They're actually having a focus on China, and they are definitely having more closer ties with China also. There was an issue when the Nepal was actually drafting constitution, their own constitution. We have a constitution that was established in 1950s, and when Nepal actually, after their monarchy period, and some of you might remember, there was a monarchy. Bangladesh, Nepal was a monarchy, and the king and the family was actually assassinated. That happened in the 1990s. So after that, lot of different governments came, that all those things were unstable, and they wanted to draft the constitution, and we, India, actually gifted them a set of CDs. Just imagine, compact disc CDs. Each of them were actually explaining how India adopted the constitution. So we were telling lessons to the Nepali people, that the Nepal, that okay, just look at this particular CDs, all the videos, all the documents are here. Look at that, how we drafted the constitution. Learn from that and make a constitution. So all those things are actually happening. It is a very unstable country, of course. Now they are actually having it with the communist government and all. They are having more ties to China, right? And just look at Bangladesh, what is actually happening, the crisis happening there. Look at Afghanistan. They're actually having Taliban right now. So we were actually constructing, helping infrastructure development, all the activities in Afghanistan. We were actually constructing a very large Garland Road in Afghanistan. We constructed their parliament also. See, we constructed a lot of different dams and reservoirs in Afghanistan also. All these things are actually happening with India's help too. We were really focused on the region, and suddenly Taliban came. So ultimately what happened is that we suddenly lost all the leverage, and we are now focused, or we can say we are now forced to deal with that particular entity, the evil entity, we can say, that is called Taliban. And yesterday only, because of the influence of Taliban, etc., yesterday I heard the news that the country Iraq, with the influence of Taliban, of course, those kind of ideologies, that they are even planning to reduce the age of consent, age of the girls married, that is to somewhere around 10 or 9.
9 years of age.
9 years old. So those kind of things are actually happening. All the human resource issues, all the kind of, abuses, all the things are actually happening. And then the drug peddling also. It is actually part of the crescent thing, that is actually a part of the drug things. So all the things are actually happening around, and Myanmar is definitely not a safe state. They are actually military junta, of course. The influence of military is actually having heavy hit. And Sri Lanka, of course, is also on the cusp of a political. Yes?
But somehow Taliban is considered pro-India these days. Like it's said that India is somehow supporting Taliban.
It is actually right now that is actually considered to be pro-India because they need development. So the Taliban, which was happening in the 2000s, before the US invasions and all, that is definitely not the Taliban right now. Eventually, when we think about Taliban, it is actually considered as an economic entity. They are a business corporation. What are they doing business? They are actually doing business in opium and other drug things and other illegal things. That is a big company. It is a big corporate which is actually indulging in different illegal, illicit things. And the Taliban currently definitely need the support of the regional players, and definitely they are actually talking more good things about India, of course. But the situation that is emanating out of Taliban, the Afghanistan, of course, it is actually not very conducive. We can actually we can actually compete with other countries for the influence in Taliban, and Taliban definitely needs the support of the different other players. That is actually, that fact is there. But still, the nation Taliban, the nation Afghanistan, with Taliban at their head, is definitely unstable. For our regional security purpose and all, it is actually very unstable. That is the thing. What you said is actually right. They are not the Taliban, which was extremely anti-India in the 2000s. They are definitely slightly more relaxed right now, but still Taliban is Taliban. So that is the point there. So this is actually the concept what is happening. This is the neighborhood right now. And we have to also mention about, we missed one particular point, that about the Bangladesh, that is the Teesta River. So whenever the topic Bangladesh comes, the Teesta River also has to be accommodated. That is a river originating from the Himalayas and through the Sikkim region, through the West Bengal region. It actually flows down and it actually flows down like this. So that particular river is actually Teesta. It actually joins Ganga, of course. So it is a tributary of Ganga, we can say. And we are actually trying to finalize an agreement on the Teesta River, both the Prime Ministers of Bangladesh and India, but it was not getting finalized. Then there is another topic, that is the federalism. So all the different things matters related with the river water sharing, all those things are actually under Article 253. It is actually under the prerogative of the government of India. The central government will decide all the trans-boundary river matters. But when it comes to Teesta, which is actually extremely important to the people of Sikkim as well as West Bengal, before flowing to the Bangladesh, so we have to consider the people, the governments of the Sikkim and West Bengal also, mainly West Bengal. So that is actually in a stalemate. So if Sheikh Hasina had succeeded in finalizing an agreement of the Teesta River Agreement, so then she would have got a better image in Bangladesh. But she could not finalize even that. The talks were continuously going on and it is actually under stalemate. So that was actually happening in Bangladesh. And please make sure that you mention about Teesta also when the main question is actually coming. So that is actually the impact on India, and make sure that you mention about the neighborhood first policy also. And the neighborhood first policy is actually very important, at least in this time and next time mains, of course. So make sure that all the different neighbors, what is actually happening there, just have a brief idea about that and have a larger idea of the impact on India and impact on them with the relation with India. That is actually an extremely important thing when we are actually going forward.